Welcome into another Q&A, questions and alcohol, where we talk food, drinks, art, and more here in Kentucky and beyond. And we're staying in Kentucky for this episode, and definitely on the drink side with a little bit I think a side of food as well, and maybe even art because of all the different things they have out there. We're talking with Jesse Brasher. Did I say that right?
That's right.
See, I was hopeful. I figured I could still screw it up, even though I asked you beforehand. Who's the West 6 Director of Retail Operations, and he's on here to talk about the West 6 Farm, which is out in Frankfort in central Kentucky. And Jesse, welcome in.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, now, before we get too far involved into the farm, let's talk a little bit about yourself and how you got into this crazy industry that it is the craft beer world.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to mid 2000s. I was living in Mexico for a few years there, teaching English, and one of my coworkers was a big beer brewer. He's actually one of the guys that started one of the first big homebrew supply stores, the Austin Homebrew Supply. A guy named Darren, really cool guy, and kind of got me involved in brewing beer with them. We would sit around, grade papers, drink some like homebrew. He was always bringing in like these, West Coast style clones. And in 2005 in central Mexico, you couldn't really get anything like that. So totally blew my mind. I was like 22 years old. It's like, what is this? So I got super psyched about beer, got into homebrewing a little bit, came back to the US, and, a couple turns later ended up starting with West 6 in 2012, and was just like super excited to have a really craft focused and community focused brewery in our town. It really felt like at that point, with Country Boy starting and us, and Beer Trap, which is a really, really great retail store, opening in like 2010, 11, it was like really this upswell of cool stuff going on with beer in central Kentucky, and got involved, and turned the page. It's 10 years later and still loving it.
Well, I was going to say, and West 6 is celebrating their 10th anniversary kind of as we speak. For you though, at West 6, what's your role? Because I believe, if I'm correct, you've had a few different roles in your time there.
Yeah, sure. When we started, it was I think the first couple of days, or actually, first few weeks, it was the founders, Ben, Brady, and Joe, and our founding brewer, Robin. Like making beer, setting everything out, getting behind the bar. It was just like an all hands on deck situation. So most of us who started there since, we all started behind the bar, as did I. And, I think it's actually like a really cool way to get started in the industry, because you get to interact with customers, you get to see how meaningful the thing can be. And you really learn a lot about, customer preferences, why people show up, the things people get psyched about. I think that was a really cool experience for me. And, and I still to this day love jumping back there. I think our bar staff is amazing. It's always really fun to like just have that really immediate connection with customers. But then over the years, several of us have kind of taken on different roles as the company's grown, and that progressed through leading tours and that program, and then private events and that program, and then as we expanded to some different retail operations, different retail spaces, it got too big, and now we have really great taproom managers at all 4 of our locations, and my job is really just to work with them, provide some guidance and support for them, and just help them kind of like develop and continue like driving these taprooms. So that's my goal, is essentially just make our taproom spaces and our private events as cool as possible, as good for us as possible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, where you've been able to actually see all of these come on board too, it's got to be pretty cool to be part of that. Because I mean, we're talking about the farm, but you also got the box up in northern Kentucky, and then Nulu out in Louisville. But for the farm, that was, I feel like, a very interesting thing that y'all did. And can you talk about what it is? Because it's a tap room, but it's also a farm, a working farm.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of goal at the beginning, was almost thinking of this, kind of wine model, the experience of getting to get out there and, see a little bit of what goes into beer production from like an agricultural standpoint. We always kind of get behind this idea of, to kind of shift that Wendell Berry quote a little bit. Beer brewing is an agricultural act, right? And for an agricultural state like Kentucky, it's we felt like it's really cool opportunity to showcase that. Didn't want to go into it and be like, substitutively, creating all of our own inputs. That's not like the end goal. It's more of kind of like an experience, chance to like demo some of those things. So we have like a 1/3 of an acre hop farm that we set up in, I believe it's 2016. And we brew a couple beers with that over the course of the year. Obviously that is not anywhere sufficient for hopping 17,000 barrels of beer. But it does give us a chance to kind of showcase that when people come out and see like, these are the hops that you're tasting. This is how they grow. And does allow us like a chance to do some nice little small batch beers with those. So it was always kind of the idea is for it to be more experiential. And over time, we've always taken the approach that we want it to be a lot about what we, what our vision for the thing is, but also being like really open to what the customer feedback is and what people are getting excited about and showing out for. So, the farm over the past several years has shifted a little bit. We're, continue to be growing hops. We're growing, herbs and berries and things like this that we'll be using in beer production, which is a really cool touch point to that kind of like terroir aspect of beer brewing. But it's also like turned into just a really cool community space. We have a lot of locals out there who are just, regulars at the tap room. It's kind of their kind of the third space or however you want to call it. Terms been used to death. But it is really cool to see that community develop over the past several years. I think one of the coolest things I heard out there was one of our regulars was talking with this other guy who lived like less than a half a mile away from him. And he's like, yeah, we've lived a half a mile from each other for like 15 years. And I never met him until the tap room opened. Right. So I think and being I'm from a really rural part of Western Kentucky. And, I understand how like sometimes the space can really separate people. So having something for folks to be able to come into and make kind of their own community space has been really cool. And also just like a really great space for, some of the local musicians that we work with, are really, really great community partners who come out and lead hikes, do, activities with kids, working with Kemba on the mountain bike trails out there. And one of the things that we can get into maybe here in a little bit, but, this year we're super excited to add on it's an 18 whole disc golf course that we're going to be having out there, and just super psyched to work with these guys getting that set out.
Oh, that is awesome. And yeah, we'll touch on that here in a second, because you mentioned a little bit. I mean, you mentioned a lot actually, because it's a cool space. I love it out there. I mean, you can just sit there, you can just go out there and just sit and have a picnic and just enjoy yourselves. But you talked a little bit about being able to actually use some of the stuff there. Besides the hops, I mean, what else might actually go into a small batch beer? I'm guessing maybe some fruit, like you mentioned, berries, things like that.
That's right. Yeah. Every year we do a fresh hop beer or harvest beer. I think that's a really cool way to, we talk about this a little bit. It's a chance to kind of taste what the hops in this area and like this kind of this small town that a lot of people live in. What the hops in their space taste like, these are going to be different from anywhere else. The weather, the soil, all these things come into play to provide this very unique, again, kind of like terroir experience. So we're always, we do that every year. That's a really cool beer that we'll put out in September. We tend to do a couple different berry beers with blackberries and raspberries growing out there. Those beers are always super, super tasty. And, looking at a couple different other things, we're working on a sour ale that has some Thai basil in it. Like some of these different plants and herbs that we're able to grow out there as well. And so it's trying to we set a goal this year to make somewhere between like 6 to 8 individual beers that are utilizing farm ingredients, and feeling really excited about that, because I think it really it really helps kind of tie the thing together as like, like a really cool space to hang, but it's also like we're growing things out here that we can actually put in the beer. You're going to be tasting those things that are like from this farm specifically. It's cool.
Well, I mean, like you said earlier, it's something that you can show people like, hey, this actual thing is going in this beer. And that's really cool to actually see that, which you don't really get to see a whole lot of. Kind of that first step of brewing a beer is the actual ingredients that go in it. And when people think of different locations for a brewery, they often think of also maybe a few special beers that you might only be able to get out there. I know Nulu has a few specialty things because of its location. Does the farm kind of have maybe a different tap list than say some of the other locations?
Yeah, we try to. It's a little bit smaller space out there as far as like the amount of faucets and stuff. So we've got typically got like 11 or 12 beers on tap. So that menu gets curated really tightly. We really try to think about seasonality. It's an open air facility essentially. It's in a couple garage doors, but in the summer it's hot out there, right? So we try. I mean, it gets really hot out there. But it's a really great space to kind of experience summer, and it's a really cool like outdoor feel. But we try to like go a little bit lighter with beers in the summertime. We take most of those beers from our main production facility in Lexington. But yeah, again, trying to like every 6 weeks or so have a new beer that's like a farm specific, farm brewed beer. And also this year, we are really excited to kind of add a few of the beers that we're brewing on our little 3-barrel system up in Nulu as well. Those are really fun things that our brewer there, Matt Witt, gets to play around with a little bit. And this is a big part of our innovation side. So we're always trying to kind of like bring this into the farm as well. Yeah, and so a couple different things out there for sure, and some of those things that are specifically, utilizing those farm ingredients for sure.
Well, like I said, I love that program. I love to kind of see you guys being able to expand it because, again, it takes time when you're trying to get crops to actually grow properly and be, usable, so to speak. You touched on this too, talking about all the different things out there. When I've gone out there, we've gone for hikes. A couple of friends of ours have ridden their mountain bikes out there. I mean, you can kind of do a little bit of everything. Can you talk about how it's not just a brewery that like a brewery tap room that people think of, because it is kind of almost like a picnic shelter style tap room with that little bit of inner space in there, but for the most part it is a farm and you can go and explore it.
Yeah, it's 120 acres, and a good amount of that space is open to the public. There's a little bit of a choose your own adventure style thing going on there. We have hiking trails, the mountain biking trails, and you can grab little like pieces of paper that kind of show you where to go, little maps that our creative and marketing team has set out for us. And again, we program it really strongly throughout the year. The taproom manager out there, Delia Gibbs, does a really awesome job connecting with community groups who are doing everything from like local music acts to guided hikes to photography classes down on the stream. There's a fly fishing class that we're going to be doing here in a couple of weeks. And so it has this like really like programmed element of it that you can go out there and do some really cool stuff and then go and have a beer. It also, like you said, it can also just be the kind of thing where folks roll out and somebody will run a 5K and then like on the farm, and then roll up to the tap room and just sit and drink a few beers. It's a really cool, like easy vibe too, if if you want to kind of like do your own thing on it. We also in the past couple of years, as we've gone along, just like increasing some of the infrastructure and just working on this farm space. We've been able to put up these like really cool shelters and just like interspersed all throughout the farm that are covered. So, we'll have groups of families that'll come out, and 20 people, and set up kind of like a little family reunion style setup, or somebody celebrating a graduation or a birthday or something like that. So it's really cool to see things like that. We get a lot of impromptu, like, okay, somebody's here and they've got like a lot of food and there's a birthday cake, and I guess like they're just chilling here for 3 or 4 hours. But yeah, I think also one of the most like interesting, kind of fun, weird things about it that I've noticed is just like it's a really family. There's a lot of families that come out, because it gives a chance for families to, just hang out, chill, drink some beers and catch up while their kids can like play in that space. We in our pavilion, there's like this gravel, just like gravel laid out there. I'm like shocked at how much kids love rocks. They just like take the gravel, like make stuff out of it, put it into like a toy truck, and then dump it on the ground and then do it again. As somebody who doesn't have kids, it's like super interesting to see like these like 3, 4, 5-year olds just like playing, like the way that like when I was a kid, I would kind of go outside and, you just like find whatever's out there and you have fun with it. And I think that's a really cool thing to see, kids get to roll out there and interact with other kids and have a good time and, not be just like super focused on the screen. So that's another really cool aspect of the farm.
I was going to say, I totally understand the rocks. Literally yesterday, I was getting my daughter's coat and put my hand in her pocket and went, what in the world? There are like 4 or 5 rocks in there. And I'm like, where did you get these? We have not been near something that you should have this. But yeah. So no, I totally get that. But I love that too, because like you said, it is a community space. And, breweries have kind of become that to begin with. But out there, it's even more so because you can actually have some space and you can go run around and you can have fun. And people probably should expect that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, it's a lot of different types of people. And again, we have like folks who are, out there like for specific reasons. We have folks that come out there, every Saturday to catch up with their friends. We have folks who are meeting family members from other places, like, a lot of kind of folks who are like Louisville and Lexington will choose that as a meeting place because it's only about 45 minutes away from each. And you got kids, not kids, or folks. It's just like a whole like interesting mix of people, and it's been really cool. It's just a really cool little slice of life to see everybody kind of get into a space that's not specifically just all the people that you kind of always choose to kind of opt into and hang out with. So.
Well, and you mentioned too, like I said, there's plenty to do out there, and right now I know hours are Friday, Saturdays, or Saturday, Sunday, expanding to Friday here tomorrow after this episode releases, and then eventually down the road another day in there as well. But you talked about the disc golf. How cool is it to be able to partner with some of these different groups around Kentucky to bring stuff out there to just have some more fun and make the farm even more usable and more enjoyable?
Yeah, I mean, just generally like working with those different groups that like kind of seeing their passion and seeing these folks get out there, really drive cool things that are great opportunities for people to enjoy. It's really like our favorite way to work. We're going to like push some things out, but so frequently it's folks kind of coming to us with really cool ideas. Even going back to our main flagship location in Lexington, we in 2012 we started the Run Club, and that's still going strong. I mean, 10 years in, we have people who like run 300 plus times. And that was somebody who had been living out in Colorado and had moved back to Kentucky and had been part of like a Run Club group at a brewery. And they're like, hey, I would love to do this here. And it was so cool to get that somebody else's passion, just like interest in that kind of thing. Cause that's how you can really grow like a really cool community. And we've seen that with the Run Club, with the yoga at different places, with all these different kind of groups that we've set up and worked with in the past decade. And the farm is a really great example of that. We just have so many folks who they get passionate about something. They want to see something cool out in the space, and they take some ownership of it. We're always like happy to work with them and provide resources, and just like if we think it fits into the vision of what we're doing, like we're always like super amenable to that. The disc golf course is, I think, super, super fun. When I was in high school, I used to play disc golf all the time. And it's just such a fun, like low-key activity, kind of thing you can definitely go out and, get a crowler beer or like a couple, get a 6-pack or something, split it with somebody, walk around and just like enjoy, it's kind of like one of those things, like it's fun in and of its own, like in its own thing. But even if you're not like the best disc golf player in the world, it's like a good way to get a few miles walking. get a good hang with somebody, have a couple beers. It's just like a really cool activity. So when this idea came up, we were super on board, and we're excited to get moving on that. We think it's um, probably May, I believe, when that all gets rolled out, and we'll be working on that project, and hopefully seeing some tournaments. I hope this year, but if not, I know that's definitely in the works for the next couple of years to get a couple of disc golf tournaments that take place here that we can draw people in from other parts of Kentucky and hopefully around the region as well.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that is not good at disc golf, and I am just there for company, a good time and a good drink. Because yeah,
Yes,
I try, and it's just not good. It's just not good. I haven't lost a disc yet, which I'm very shocked about. But it's not the most
yeah.
pretty of things. But it is a good time, and I think too, people also enjoy when they're thinking good times and going out to a brewery, a good food truck, and I believe this year you guys are taking a little different approach out there with the West Six Cantina, which is new to y'all. That'll be there, and I think over at Nulu on occasion and elsewhere. Can you talk a little bit about the food truck and kind of what folks can expect with it out there and just around the region?
Yeah, we've worked with so many great trucks in the past, and still going to continue to weave those in where we see fit, and for special events and things like that. We're super appreciative of the groups that have worked with us, and again, like that tapping manager Delia does a really awesome job, just like finding good trucks, and I'm always amazed, like we're able to do that week in, week out. But like especially like kind of beginning, like pre-pan, maybe like beginning of the pandemic, like when we were planning for 2020 into 2019, 2020, we were really seeing just like the potential to have like a food setup that would be like another extension of our brand, and something that we could really control as something that'd be super beneficial. And the more we got into that idea, the more excited about it we got. I think it started, it's kind of like germination of like solving a problem. Like we want food at the farm, and people come out and they want food. And sometimes like the trucks would need to leave early, something would happen, be bad weather, they'd run out of food. Maybe it's like a really amazing day, and they're just like, hey, it's 2:30 on Saturday and I'm out of food, and that happens, and we're psyched for that success for them. But then it leaves like another 6 hours of people showing up being like, where's the food truck? It's like they already sold out. So we saw this as, in the first kind of initially as like a chance to solve that problem. And then as we got to talking about it, we're just like, no, this actually could be a really cool brand extension. There's things that we can grow out in the farm that we can use in the food as well. And I think it also just like got more and more exciting as something that maybe we can expand. Maybe this could be kind of phase one of our food operations generally. So when we kind of like started testing the water and some ideas and getting some folks together to consider these different things, ended up buying one of our favorite food trucks that have been working with us for a long time. Had like family situation, needed to move, and was getting out of the business. So they sold us their truck. It was already kind of like set up for like tacos, burritos, quesadillas, and they'd done really amazing work with us. Initially was like, can I hire you? Like, can you just like work with us, please? But they were, they definitely didn't move on, and still in close contact with those guys. Really, really cool folks. But we really love the idea of like, like tacos, quesadillas, burritos, or like a ton of us have like a lot of passion for that, for those foods, and thought it was something that we could turn around and, in a way that's going to be a good experience for folks. Good food to kind of like, go along with your with a few beers on a nice afternoon, and started kind of mapping that out. It's it's definitely a new thing for us, so it's been a lot of work that we've been putting into it over the past 6 months or so, especially. But we have a chef, Randy, that we just hired, Culinary Institute of America grad, like done a lot of really great work in kitchens, and he's working with us on getting the truck moving. And we're hoping kind of like mid-April it's going to be ready to move, and we're super psyched. I think it's going to be a really cool new experience for a lot of people at the farm, and again, just like hoping that can be the beginning of something that we that we continue to drive. I think there's like, not to get too far ahead of myself here, but I think there's some really cool opportunities for big food-based events. Maybe it's a big pig roast, or or like a carnitas day or something like that. But I think having the ability to roll that out and drive it from our end is really exciting. So we're super psyched to see kind of how this like new venture goes.
Well, it sounds like you guys always have something new and exciting going on, and
Yes.
and I'd love to see it, and I'd love to also see, we're coming up on the summer festivals, and you guys will be out there as well. So I guess my last question is what fun can folks expect either out there or just with West Six this year?
Yeah, I think obviously like the truck is going to be really cool, and we're going to be getting it out to a bunch of different events. Our Kentucky events team I think it's one of the super unique and just like standout things that we do. That's Kelly Hieronymus, our creative director. She works with Tim Buckingham on that, and Tim is really like the driver for that Kentucky events team. He just does an amazing job. I think we're going to hit the goal is over 400 events this year. So we just think it's such a cool extension of like our 4 locations in Lexington, our Nulu location, which is really, really dope, and just an awesome space up there run by Caitlin Kohlberg, who's like one of our, like, been with us forever, just absolute rock stars. The Box Park, which is a new location up in northern Kentucky, Tess Matten's runs that place. It's super, super cool. And just like, like what we call 501, like the flagship location, that's Olivia Grigsby runs that place. And like just going to be doing a lot of really cool events at all of these places this year. But I think in addition to having those locations, just the ability for us to to set up like 400 events, like throughout mostly central Kentucky, but really, all throughout the state, and bringing that taproom experience out to everybody, I think is going to be a really cool thing. We'll be doing, we've got our birthday that's kind of like ongoing right now. So celebrating 10 years, and we'll continue rolling things out throughout the course of the year. In conjunction with that, really looking forward to another collab beer with which we do every year for Lexington Craft Beer Week with Country Boy in May, and we'll be doing a bunch of different events throughout the summer. So tons of stuff on the kind of on deck for this year, and we think it's going to be a really awesome one. I think one of the big things too is just knocking strongly on this wooden kitchen table here. Just the opportunity for people to get out and be in a room together. This was an interesting experience, but we take all this stuff very seriously. Our staff is all vaccinated, and we've really spent the past couple of years trying to like make sure that we're taking care of our staff, making sure we're listening to the CDC and the governor's guidelines and moving on those things. But it is just so nice to start to kind of feel things opening up. So I think that's a huge thing that we're super psyched about. 2 weeks ago at the farm, we had this experience. It was like a Saturday that was, 70 degrees and beautiful. It was just so on fire. It was electric. It was so cool out there, so busy, just great to see people out there. Then the next Saturday was 22 degrees and snow. And so that's the Sunday when we opened. After that, it was like 40 degrees, windy, all these things. But we had a really cool Irish food truck out there that was doing like full Irish breakfast. We had a couple local musicians out there playing, and we just scooted as many tables as we could into tap room, and just like getting to see kind of and feel that energy of a full room of people just like connecting and spending time with each other was so cool. It made me feel, it started to feel like the tiniest glimpse of like maybe what this year can look like. So that's what we're hoping for. And, we'll see how things go.
As you said, knock on wood, and let's hope everything goes well. And if you want to find out more, west6.com, you can also find them on social media. All their different locations are also on social media, including the Cantina as well. So a lot of good things, Jesse, and I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much. Really appreciate being on here, and looking forward to seeing out farm sometime soon.
Absolutely.